All right, let's go ahead and get started then. If you saw that look of confusion, it was my screen over here doing weird things, making sure we got everything covered. So welcome everybody to, there we go, a partner-led virtual session for all ConnectWise user groups. So welcome everybody in all the regions. We're very excited about this virtual session because it's not only informational, but we also going to have a workshop on this one. I know that a lot of the feedback that we get is how do we can get some of that hands-on experience hearing from the ConnectWise team. So this is something that you can get out of the partner program, and then you see the outcome. So we're going to not only learn about incident response, but also learn about the partner program as well. As we go through it, make sure that you use the chat to ask any questions. We have several members of the council here that I can wink wink so they can check the chat if there's any questions, so we can kind of like moderate those and just shout them out there for you guys. So yeah, you just use the chat to participate that way. We don't have to worry about muting and unmuting everybody, just asking all the different questions during the session. So the other thing I wanted to mention is in January 11th will be our next virtual session. And we're going to be talking about inside of ConnectWise PSA, all the project module enhancements. So it's going to be specific on where, if you have anybody managing your project, or if you're using the project management module, you're interested in expanding and see what the new features are, that is going to be our topic. And again, that will be, let me go back here, January 11th, same schedule, 3 to 4 Eastern. That will be right now, that one schedule again for just 1 hour. So like I said, we got two parts for today's session. One of them is going to be about the partner program, and with us we have Warren Sheppard. Warren is I reached out to Warren because he is our PDM with ConnectWise, and he has a vast experience. And the nice thing is, Warren, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were one of like the original creators of this partner program. So he has all that experience, and what partners need in sales, cybersecurity sales, all brought together for we can all take advantage of this program. And I don't know, by show of hands, you can just use your right hand, so just give a thumbs up. I don't know how many people are familiar with the partner program, are part of it, and I think that's probably one question. Are you part of it? And the most important question is, are you taking advantage of it? Because I can tell you that we were a partner for a couple of months, and it took us a little bit to actually take advantage and discover all the cool things that are in there that you can use. So, and that's, I'm going to leave that to Warren, because otherwise I'll take all of his time. And then on the second half, or the second 3/4 probably, we're going to have Jason McNew. And Jason is also with ConnectWise, and he is principal solutions advisor, so he also has experience with a partner program, but he has a vast knowledge when it comes to cybersecurity. He is CISSP certified. He's who's the founder of Stronghold Cybersecurity, helping the defense industrial base and with contractors on CMMC, and in contractor CMMC ready. Jason is also a U.S. Air Force veteran, so thank you for your service. He has a master's degree. It is pretty impressive. He has a master's degree from Penn State on information sciences, cybersecurity, and information assurance. So very smart person is going to guide us through our workshop, and later on you can probably talk about your log home that you have, and built in, what was it, 1970, I believe?
1760.
1760. Got all my numbers over there all mixed up. So that's such a cool story. I'd love to hear more about that as well. So With that, Warren, I'll hand it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay. All right. Let me know, and are you ready for me to go ahead and get started? We good?
Yes. Where's my
Righty.
Oh. There we go. I switched to my OneNote. There you go.
Okay. All right. I'll start sharing.
Go ahead, sir. And I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. And, Juan, certainly thank you for allowing us to participate and address the group. Good afternoon. I'm here located in central Pennsylvania, East Coast time. So it's good afternoon, good morning. I guess everybody's kind of here in the States. But I want to take a few minutes to talk about the partner program. As Juan mentioned, I'm one of the longest tenured PDM we have within the partner program, and I was one of the early adopters and gave quite a bit of input in terms of the development of the program, how we got it structured, how we got it started. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing real quick here. Hopefully Teams will. Am I sharing? Can you see my screen? Not yet? Let's see here.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's try it again.
You know what? I probably need to promote you. Oh, no. There you go.
Okay. It's coming up?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. I can see your PowerPoint window there.
There we go.
There we go.
All good?
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Okay. So we call it the Strategic Cyber Partner Program. And for right now, it's all about cyber, but I'll talk a little bit more about, we've actually expanded the program quite a bit. A little bit about me. Before I came to ConnectWise, I've been in the business for 20 plus years. I've worked with telco. I've done a lot of work in cloud infrastructure, UCaaS, managed security services, a lot in the Intel space. I started off as a developer. I think one of the high points in my career was consultant for Walt Disney World. I was one of the lead architects in building the systems for MGM Studios back in the day. So I used to work for Mickey Mouse, one of the best jobs I've ever had, actually. Sometimes I yearn to go back. I've joined ConnectWise in November of 2020. As I mentioned, I helped create what we call now the Cyber Partner Development Program. We now have over 1,000 partners enrolled worldwide. We have partners in the United States. We have them in Europe, UK, and over in Asia. So it's expanded quite a bit. Prior to ConnectWise, I was working with Verizon. Did a lot of work in terms of building critical infrastructure. And as far as my hobbies are concerned, family, I'm a boater. So I live here on the East Coast near the Chesapeake Bay. So I'm a boater, passionate about cybersecurity, and also my barbecue. I'm a certified KCBS barbecue judge. So I'm always giving out tips and pointers in terms of, how do you cook good barbecue? So that's a passion. All right. So about the partner program, when I came to ConnectWise back in 2020, when this concept was being talked about, it was based upon a lot of demand that was coming from the MSP community. These were some of the challenges that the partners were having in terms of, how quickly could they go to market? Because back in 2020 and 2021, when we started, certainly cybersecurity was a topic, but it was just becoming top of mind, and there was certainly a huge acceleration in terms of the pace in which the technologies were coming out, and we were going well beyond just traditional AV and MFA, and the bad guys and the adversaries have gotten a lot smarter. They've better tools, better utilization, and just more sophisticated. And so a lot of our partners were, I know I need cybersecurity, but I'm not quite sure, how to come to market. So a lot of the focus is and continues to be working with our partners in terms of growth. This is really a program, even though we do a lot of sales enablement, we do a lot of training, technical training, it's really about enablement. It's about go-to-market. It's about growth. It's about those partners. They want to use cybersecurity and related tools to really grow the business. and that cybersecurity being a line of business. We have some partners in the program that are just starting out, don't know what good cybersecurity looks like. They have an idea. They've got maybe first generation AV and some other tools, but they kind of lack some of the sophistication. But we also have some very mature partners in the partner program that are there for other reasons in terms of enablement and some of the marketing and some of the other knowledge transfer things that we do with the partner program. One of the other challenges was attracting and retaining talent. That's also something that we hear a lot from our MSPs. The top right there, scaling staff. That's another one that we work very closely with our partners in terms of, what kind of talent do I need in terms of as I build up my cybersecurity practice. And then also, how do I convey business value? When you talk about cybersecurity, oftentimes it's difficult to put a monetary value on it. And certainly it's a conversation about risk and, how do you put value, and we help our partners in terms of putting together value propositions and how to handle objections and how to position it with the board and how to position it with your end clients. So the program is a little different and we think it's a differentiator in terms of what you see with some of the other programs. We're not just selling software. It's a community. We talk about growth strategies. We talk about how do we reduce cost of sales? How do we increase productivity? So there are a lot of value-added things that we have in the partner program. So when the partner program is structured, we have primarily two groups of partners in the partner program. Starting from the left, we have what we call the registered partner. So the registered partner is a partner that they want to leverage some of the assets that we have as part of the partner program. They want to leverage some of our content. They want to leverage some of the training materials, but they're not quite ready to move on to the Accelerate Partner part of the program, because the Accelerate Partner of the program it's more involved. It has a bit more due diligence to it. The expectations are a little higher with regards to our partners' participation. So the registered partner is, it's self-paced. You can still take advantage of the education. There's brandable marketing assets within our repository that you can use. For those partners who don't have a marketing component, they can certainly use our marketing automation platform. And then there's also, you can tap into and take advantage of our free fundamentals and our certification. So there's a lot of benefit there, certainly, for those partners that are registered. And there's no cost to be a registered partner. You just have to sign up. The other side of the partner program, and this is where we have the largest number of partners, and that is called the Accelerate Partner. And the Accelerate Partner part of the program, this is where you've got more dedicated resources. So we concentrate on things like business readiness, where we talk about sales and marketing. We talk about enabling our partners' sales teams. We work on operational internal assessment. We have a term we call protect your house, in terms of we feel as though our MSPs have to have a strong cyber portfolio and a strong cyber posture before they're able really to talk to their partners about risk mitigation and cybersecurity. We talk a lot about pricing and bundling. This is probably one of the really hot topics, and we talk about a lot is, I've got offerings, but how do I package it? Am I pricing it competitively? How do I look with regards to my market and my geo? Am I charging enough? So we do a lot of consulting and a lot of discussions around business readiness. The other component is around the marketing. So we do a lot of, we have a dedicated marketing team of directors and content developers. We have what we call our marketing concierge. And these are dedicated resources to the partners that are at the Accelerate membership. So you get a dedicated marketing concierge. There are market development funds that you get, and there are a number of ways you can use those funds. And I've got some pointers and all, but there's guidance in the program that, and our marketing concierge can help in terms of how do I use the market development funds, whether it be webinars or lunch and learns or wine tasting or baseball events. We get very creative, and our partners will get very creative in the way that they use those market and the co-op funds. And a lot of that, the marketing program is basically it supports three models. One, we can do a lot of the marketing for you, meaning we can run campaigns, we can help you build lead list, we can build out content, we can do things with you, or you can do it yourself. Quite a few of our partners have a marketing component, or they may use a third-party marketing component, and they take more of a hybrid approach. They use some of our expertise in our content and marketing automation, and then they may use the third party for maybe some of the process or some of the other content. And then you have dedicated access to folks like myself and to Jason in terms of our subject matter experts. Closing deals, and that's where we do a lot of enablement. And then partners that are in the Accelerate program, they get someone like myself, a partner development executive that works very closely with our partners in terms of training the sales staff, making sure that there's sales enablement, that you're well versed and confident in terms of the use of our technology. We do a lot of coaching with regards to various types of frameworks, whether it be MEDIC, BANT, or Challenger. A lot of our partners, they've got sales teams, but don't really have the discipline or know much about frameworks and pipelines. So we do a lot of discussion and consulting around that as well. So when we take a look at I think these are some of the key things that we do. We do a lot of strategy, go-to-market strategy in terms of positioning, objection handling. I mentioned about marketing. Best practices is another key area. We have talent on the team like Jason that we can bring in. We have talent that can talk about pricing and packaging in terms of go-to-market. So we do a lot of best practices around using our technology, around the EDR, our MDR, our SIM technologies. And then, of course, I talked about the funding in terms of MDF and co-op. Okay, so now the PDM role, which I am a partner development executive, you get a PDM if you are a member of the Accelerate program. You don't get a dedicated resource if you are what we call the self-service, if you will, only the Accelerate membership. So my role is to work with partners, guide our partners with the practice building journey in terms of we've got templates, we've got process documents. We just have a lot of information of how to and best practices and what does good cybersecurity look like. And my goal is to help you take advantage of these program benefits. There are a lot of benefits. I don't have time to go through all of them, but there's a lot of other benefits that come with the partner program. I work very closely with partners in terms of looking for opportunities and having pipeline discussions, working with their sales teams. I bring in pre-sales resources to help position, to do presentation, demonstrations. All of this is just really around helping you grow the business, helping you find opportunities, help you develop opportunities, and help you close and win opportunities. And, over the last 3 years, we've been able to really garner some empirical data that shows really that the program is working, and that the partners that participate in the program are growing. Partners that are in the program, we found from our numbers, they grow 4 times faster. They get double digit in terms of year-over-year growth, in terms of building their cybersecurity practice, selling the cybersecurity solutions. 75 million in new ARR. And then we found that, that number has actually grown now to maybe like 20% of our partners have really more profitable. When they start in the program, they get aligned with the PDM, get aligned with our our marketing teams, they get aligned with our technical teams, and we have a formula that works. And our partners that are in the program, are profitable and show results. So about the program, a lot of it's about the security bundles. What goes in a bundle? What should be in there? A lot of our partners right now are looking at technology such as SIM, looking at technology like email security with Proofpoint, or they're looking at vulnerability management. And how do you MFA, and how do you bring these new solutions into existing packages, or for those partners that actually need to rework or re-engineer your service offerings, we're able to help there as well. We have templates and guidelines in terms with your sales teams and your technical teams in terms of how to have that cybersecurity conversation with prospects and also with existing customers that you want to possibly cross-sell or upsell. And then in terms of sales accountability, that's something that comes with building maturity, within the cyber practice, is using a framework to track opportunities, identify opportunity, and really improve your win probability and your win rates. And that's what it's all about. You can't grow if you don't win. So that's a lot of what's being focused on. Other areas that we're focusing in on, as I mentioned, the program does have a bit of rigor to it. It is a formal program. It's flexible, but we do have a framework that we follow, a framework of success. So we talk about revenue forecasting in terms of, what are your yearly or your 2 or 3 year plan? What are your quarterly goals? What kind of revenue projection are you looking at? And we can back in to say, your projected revenue, how many leads we think you're going to need to reach that number. From a product and operational perspective, we do a lot of coaching in terms of operational excellence, giving best practices. And we do what we call workshops and hygiene checks on SIM and how to use it, how to sell it. And then once again, as far as the sales training. So these are our key components of the program. I talked a little bit about the dedicated security consultants. We have, I'm a PDM, so you get dedicated PDM. There are dedicated SEs, security consultants, that are dedicated to you and your efforts. There's a dedicated marketing consultant. And we have our subject matter experts like Jason and members of his team that can support user groups, webinars, events, and so forth. So there's a tremendous amount of talent and resources that are available to our partners that really come into the partner program. Some of the, I'd like to say some of the other stuff, but the outside of the enablement, as part of the enablement, if you will, we provide our partners with internal use licenses for about 6 or 8 of the technology, SentinelOne, our SIM tool, our vulnerability management tool, identity access management tool. So many of our tools, we give you internal use licenses so you can use them internally for training. We call them NFR, so it's not for resale, but they're internal use licenses you can use to build competency. You can use them for training and presentations. So really, to really kind of build competency. We have a formalized certified cybersecurity training curriculum. The curriculum, it's a curriculum is 2 parts. It's one for sales, and there's one for technical. So we have, for the sales track, we have for owners and sales folks. And for the technical track, we have for engineers, VCIOs, and subject matter experts. And there's no charge for enrolling and participating in those curriculums. We also provide a free marketing assessment. So we'll have a marketing concierge. They'll come in, and if you have a marketing team, we'll go through a marketing assessment to determine what is the best way to utilize many of the assets we have, or is a hybrid approach better? And it's an actual documented marketing assessment. We document it, we go through it, we walk through it, and then we put together a plan. Another component of the program is business planning. We work very close with our partners in terms of, what is it you really want to get out of the program, and what is it about the program, whether it be our resources, our technology, what is the best way, what's the best methods and tactics and resource utilization that I can bring to bear as part of the program to help with regards to business planning. And then the last bullet, of course, I've talked about is we provide a tremendous amount of support for event. We have experts in terms of many of our partners need some help. Well, how do I plan an event? What do I need? How much time do I need? What's the best time of the year or the best time of the quarter? What's the best month or best day of the year or best week to run campaigns? So we have a lot of that information and best practices and empirical data that shows, these are the best practices to be successful if you want to do some of these marketing types of events. Co-op funds, we pay back. For every dollar that you invest with ConnectWise Cybersecurity, you get 10% per quarter of co-op funds. When you join, you get market development funds. You get, right now, I think it's $1,500 a year for market development funds to use for a number of market events. And then throughout the year, as you make the investments in cybersecurity with ConnectWise, you earn co-op dollars. You earn 10% on spend per quarter. And you can, we look at it as a win-win. As your business grows, your revenue accelerates, you grow, and we grow together. And this is just, and I can share this presentation, but here's just sort of an outline of a lot of the events and a lot of the work that we do and things you can do as part of the partner program. We help some of our partners with their websites in terms of optimizing for user experiences. We help build our partner referral programs, so we can do a lot of that as well. Give you some content and how do you kind of build your search engine optimization? We do a lot of that. So quite a bit of help here. Do a lot of events, social media, which is very popular. A lot of our partners who are, what are best practices around social media? What site should I be on? How do I optimize, my narratives and how do I optimize my campaigns? Just some of the things, just we have a plethora of content in our content repository. So just a lot of the things that are available here for you in terms of scripts, training videos, webinar in a box. And the incident response that Jason is going to walk through is actually one of the in a box campaigns that we have as part of the partner program, that one of the workshops we have. So we have quite a few of those, and the one that Jason is going to walk through is actually in the partner program, in the partner portal. Here, just sort of an example of some of the content, selling guides, the content that we have in the partner program. You can download it. You can white label the assets, put in your logos, your color, your fonts. You can customize it as you see fit. If you need to customize it for specific vertical markets, you can do that. And the cool thing about the content that we have a lot of partners that do Robin Robbins, that do other programs, but our program, our content, and our process is all about cybersecurity. So all the contents and everything that we prepare is about how do you better sell, position cybersecurity. So just, I mentioned, we have partners that grow, 4x. And when we first started in the partner program back in, 2021, you can see the numbers of those partners that were in the program and those partners that were not in the program. So the numbers have really kind of borne out the success. And in going in 2024, I'm happy to add that we're going to be adding some new features and functionality in the partner program to enhance what we're currently doing. We've taken a lot of input and feedback from our partners with regard to terms of what we're doing and some of the new things they'd like to see. Okay, so I'm kind of going to wrap up here. I talked about the financial and the support we have, and then the last screen here. And if you happy to answer any questions, but I can send this slide out. But this is a easy way that you can actually find out more information about the partner program, about the enrollment, and have any Q&A. But this is an easy way that you can get more information about the program. So I think I've done it in 30 minutes. I am going to stop sharing just for a moment. And let's see, I can stop sharing here. All right. Okay.
All right.
Any questions, comments about the program? I think at the very beginning, I think we had a couple of hand raised that were in the partner program, but if there are any questions now, or I can take some later, you've got my email. I'm more than happy to have a call and talk more about the partner program. So Juan, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share about the Cyber Partner Program. We're pretty proud of it. They say we think it's a key differentiator, and certainly we're finding out that our partners are really being able to benefit from the program.
Jason's asking, what would be the average cost for the program?
Okay, so to become an excellent, so the self journey, there's no, as a registered partner, there's no charge. For an Accelerate membership, all we require is that you have a $400 minimum recurring spend with ConnectWise. So it's $400 a month for any SentinelOne or any products that you have, $400 a month MRR to be in the program and to maintain membership in the program. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Juan,
Okay,
I'll pass them.
All right, thanks, Warren.
Back to you, Juan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Warren. All I can say, we're Matrix. We are all part of the partner program. And I know when we started onboarding cybersecurity and trying to get into that, it was really hard how to have that conversation with the clients and talk about products and solutions, because we didn't have that expertise within our sales team. And one of the nice things is that we invited you guys, and you pretty much spoke as Matrix to our clients to help those solutions. We even had a technology fair. You guys were in there at our booth. And speaking of technology fair, we have a marketing funds that we're able to use towards that. Like you said, this workshop that we're gonna experience here with Jason is part of it. There's a lot of content, training, and now I just saw on the slides, you guys are adding all the BCDR solutions and things like that. So as you add new programs or new products, it's good to have that to rely on you guys to be able to promote those to our clients. So.
And if I could just say one last thing, and I talked about, a big plus and a big draw is the co-op funds and MDF. I mean, you get a lot. I think you can see a lot of other benefits, but we gave out over $1.1 million in co-op this past year. So, and having our partners spend that co-op is actually one of my KPIs. Our senior leadership is all about working with our partners, making sure that we work very closely with them to really leverage those funds and how to use those funds.
It looks like Drew did have a question. Currently in the program. Yeah, he says, currently program, what is the engagement score?
Engagement score? Not sure. You mean like the net presenter score? Was that?
And you can, Drew, if you want to, you can unmute yourself and provide any clarity on that one.
Here?
Sure. Yeah, when I log into our partner portal on the top where it has the marketing concierge person, it has a number that says engagement score, and I've seen it fluctuating throughout the weeks. And I was curious of what the number represents.
Oh, okay. Understood. Okay, you're referring to the partner portal. The number, the engagement is really it kind of tracks the activity of the partners. How often does the partner come into the portal? Do they sign on? How often are they setting up meetings with the PDM? How often are they downloading content? Are they very active with the campaign? So it's, you know, how you're engaging. We kind of monitor that, how you're actually engaging in the program.
Okay, and what's the scale? Is like, what's considered a high score? What's a low score?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not pretty sure. That's kind of changed. I can get back to you on that. It kind of varies depending upon the size, because some of our larger partners have more engagement than others. And we look at that engagement score. It's very low because we look at that score, and being quite honest, you know, there are a lot of partners that, because of the rigor of the partner program, and those that aren't engaged, you know, it's not a good fit. And so we look at that engagement score. We don't totally base it on that, but that's just one of the factors I think we look at to say, hey, look, is this partner better suited as a registered versus an accelerated member of the program?
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Ready to move ahead with the incident response workshop?
Yes. All I'm going to add is the incident, the scenario that you're going to use. It's part of that package, and as a follow-up to this session, on my email follow-up, I'm going to include the whole package in there, so everybody can see it. So what you're sharing, it will be attached to on that follow-up email.
Okay. Yeah, we normally do this live. Myself or one of the other subject matter experts would come out to you, and then you put on an event, and then you have a lunch and learn, or do it at a brewery or something like that, and then we do this incident response workshop scenario. And the purpose of this is to train your clients, what to do in the event that they have an incident, because they're the first responders, really. You know what I mean? They're going to be the first ones that detect it, and then, maybe try to do some type of containment and then notify up channel, either through their MSP or through your co-op or whatever it is that you're doing. So normally I would have all these handed out on a table, and then we will review them in advance. But since we're not doing it that way, I'm going to read this out. And this is a realistic scenario. This is something, has anybody here had to respond to incidents? If you just want to, raise your hand or, click on the clapping icon or something like that. But so let me read this. Scenario number one is going to be ransomware. And this one, I chose ransomware because it's probably one of the most common ones we deal with. But so in this situation, Monday at 9 a.m. And all of this is a lot of thought went into this. Monday at 9 a.m. because they hit you over the weekend because they know you're not there, or they hit you, on Thanksgiving Day or whatever, which is a common technique. But you work at a medical prosthetics company, a rapidly growing company with 150 employees. On Monday, after the staff meeting, the sales manager finds one of his employees waiting in the hall. The employee says he clicked on a link in the email thinking it was from one of their clients, but when nothing opened, he realized it was suspicious. Very, very believable. So we have this kind of time frame here, and then we have these questions. This is what you would do internally or go over with your clients, with myself there or one of the other subject matter experts. How would you plan and prepare for the incident? The question is that's the first question of bringing the light here is, well, did you prepare? And the analogy that I always make is that operating an information system, which you do 24/7, 365, they tend to be all the time. It's exactly like buying a house on the coast of Florida or the Gulf Coast. You can buy a house in Galveston, Texas, or in Tampa or something like that, or Fort Myers, which got rolled by, what was that, a Cat 4 or Cat 5 last year. It's going to happen eventually, which is why we need to be preparing in advance. And you don't want to respond to this as it's happening. We want to be writing in advance. And the next question is, how would you detect and validate the incident? Does anybody, I would love some interaction here, and would love to hear anybody kind of, chime in on some of these questions as we go through this. How would you detect and validate this incident? So this employee is standing in the hallway and they grab you and they say, hey, I just clicked on something and I think it might be funny, but I'm not sure. That particular employee is not a real computer savvy user. How would you detect and validate the incident? Does anybody have any comments they would like to make here, either in the chat or just unmute your mic? I'd love to hear from anybody. Unless I call on somebody. Warren, I'm calling you. Juan, I'll call on you.
I was gonna say, it's like, I'm gonna stay quiet because I'm thinking people sometimes are just tired of hearing from me.
I was gonna say, you definitely want
Well,
to ping your IT
since-
team for sure.
Yes, is that Drew? Is that you speaking up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you repeat that, please? What'd you say?
Sure, I would definitely contact your IT team, or I don't know if in this scenario, if I'm the IT person, or we would contact our IT department essentially, or.
Well, let's see, I would say, so this is 150 people, right? So 150 person environment, I would guess this is probably co-managed. They probably have an IT person on site, but they're not like a seasoned senior administrator or anything like that. And they're probably co-managing their security. And that's why, these details are in here that it's 150 people. I mean, sometimes you have 150 seats that have no internal IT at all, but this might be some internal IT. It's not going to be big enough. 150 people isn't going to be big enough to have an IT team or a team of security people or anything like that. So most likely you're going to be leaning on some external resources here. So this is all subject to speculation here. So that happened. So we first noticed this at about 9 o'clock after the morning meeting. At 9:47, the office manager notices some of the financial files on the accounting server are unavailable. Well, there's a surprise. And your team is unable to process client payments or access client medical records. Okay, so what they're doing is they're attacking your ability to operate right off the bat, which is what, typically what the ransomware attacks are going to do. When the office manager notices this, the sales manager calls wanting to know why orders can't be processed. Okay, now we can't process orders, which means that, again, they're attacking our ability to make revenue, right? Attacking the marketing systems or whatever. The office manager then calls the IT manager. Okay, so we do have an IT manager, and an IT manager in a business this big, that may or may not be somebody that's very savvy. It might be somebody where it's their full-time job or it's one of their jobs. We don't get into real specifics, but it could be either of those things. They could have one IT person on site, maybe two, or they might have more than that, or it could be a co-managed environment. It could be any of these things. The office manager then calls the IT manager, who reports that multiple servers are encrypted and that your business appears to be the victim of ransomware. So it's now 9:47 a.m. on Monday, and now we know that something has happened, right? So we know that some kind of a disaster is going on here. So the next question is how would you detect and validate the incident? And Juan, do you want to call on somebody for this, since you know your partners and I don't know anybody here personally? Maybe you could pick on somebody to answer this, or Warren.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to do it random.
Yeah.
Just move my cursor there, and I'll call on John Moore.
Okay, so John, the question is how would you detect and validate the incident? At this point, you have some limited information, but now we need to validate what's going on. Does anybody have an answer as to how you would do, or what would your answer be on this, John?
I mean, I guess it would be maybe actual inspection of the devices, servers, VMs, whatever, trying to determine, what exactly happened to them. I guess for validation, maybe we could even start reviewing logs. See if
Yeah,
we
so
have
inspect live systems and then start to look at logs. And then hopefully we have some type of security systems in place. So now if we had proper security in place, we had our SIEM and EDR, then this shouldn't have happened. It can still happen. It's rare. But yeah, we're going to do live inspection of the, on-site inspection, live inspection, start to take some looks at some logs. I'd probably take a look at the domain controller and see if there's new accounts on there. And then whatever systems we have, whether we have SIEM or EDR, we have any kind of vulnerability scanning, intrusion detection, IDS systems, firewalls, I would start taking a look at that stuff too. And then we need to, know for sure that something's going on. At this point, we highly suspect and we're pretty sure, but we're not so sure that we're ready to go tell senior leadership just yet. At least it doesn't sound like that. So now we're between 9:47 and 2:13 p.m. and this is shaping up to be a pretty crummy Monday. Probably skipping lunch. I don't think anybody's eating lunch at this point. 2:13 p.m. By this time, the business is at a standstill, so nothing's working. And the IT manager has been informed that you are not only the victims of ransomware, but also data exfiltration. So using one of these systems, whether we have digital DLP in place or intrusion detection or some other technology, endpoint protection, we've determined that data has been exfiltrated by these perpetrators. And you're instructed to pay $1.3 million in Bitcoin. That's a lot of money. $1.3 million. It's kind of a specific number. Let's see. Does anybody care? Let's do some speculation. Where do you think they would have come up with this number? Did they kind of pull it out of thin air? Did they do some recon first? Juan, you want to grab somebody for me on that one? How did they arrive at this number, do we think?
They already see what they have in the bank.
Maybe that's a possibility. It depends on how long they've been watching email for and how deeply into the systems they are. So sometimes the best intelligence that we seem to have is they seem to be liking to ask for about 10% of top line revenue. So if 10% of that would infer like $13 million or something top line revenue that this company might be doing. And, sometimes these are guesses on the part of the perpetrators. And sometimes they are dependent on what they manage to actually get into. If you compromise the CFO's email or something like that, then maybe you might have more specific information. So the threat actors make it clear that you have 1 week to comply with their demands, or else they will publish all stolen information. So they're threatening to publish it. So they've got us on a couple of fronts here. It used to be they might just encrypt or they might just exfiltrate, but they're really coming at us here because they have a specific number. What this tells me already is they hit us over the weekend because we found this on a Monday morning. They exfiltrated data already. We already know that. They have a specific number in mind that they're asking for, and they've already told us that they've exfiltrated and that they're going to publish it. So this tells me that this is a fairly sophisticated attack and that it was pulled off by somebody that has a pretty good idea what they're doing and that they planned this in advance. So what this tells me is that this dwell time that they've been in, dwell time is the amount of time from they get initial access, persistent access, to the time we actually discover it or they make their own presence known, and the time that we discover it. So we know that they've been in there for a while already. This tells me right up the top I would guess probably 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe more, maybe a couple months. Maybe they waited for something to happen. So let's go back down to our questions here. How would you contain and eradicate the incident? This is where it starts to get, kind of technical. So we'll look for a technical answer from somebody here. Who are our technical practitioners here? Is anybody engineers, Juan, that could answer this? How would you do to contain this at this point? Now we got to contain this so it can't get any worse. Let's see, who haven't we or go ahead, Juan.
Oh, I don't know about or when it comes to the background engineers. So I am just going to, call. I would say, if I have to start, I know that we're in a kind of like virtual environment. The recommendation is not to turn it off, but at least take it offline to prevent more access. That'll probably be my first response there. But I'm going to call on Clark Hightower to see what he thinks about it. This is fun. Thank you for letting me pick on people, by the way.
Well, I wasn't going to do it. I don't know anybody here.
Yeah, I would assume, I'm not an engineer, but I would assume that, like you're saying, you would shut down access, try to contain it, whether it be through the firewall or other systems. We've dealt with breaches and instances for our clients where, you got to find out how far it's spread, right? And even one of the recent ones we had, a client was a CFO or someone there was like, no, I need this server to stay up because I'm working. And it had spread to that server and spread to other servers. I mean, you don't know how far it's gone, workstations, everything. So you're just shutting the LAN down completely. And you can't even, depending on how far it's spread, you can't even power something back on. So yeah, I assume starting with firewalls and whatever else you have that's, outside access, and just begin to shut it down, right? So that it can't spread any further than what it is.
Or to cut off the perpetrators from access, which they're going to be anticipating, by the way. They're going to anticipate all of this, but it's still a reasonable thing that's a good answer. You'll probably have in a business this size, you're going to have one or more backbones, and I would probably turn those backbones off right away. And then machines that I know are infected, you might want to disconnect them from the network so it can't spread laterally. One of the things you don't want to do is turn things off, because there could be data remnants, in volatile memory that we need for forensics. So you don't want to shut anything off, but disconnecting things from the network is a reasonable next step here. So, okay, let's see how much. 2:13, the business is at a standstill. So 7:48 p.m. it's late, and the management team is still in the office. Yeah, this is going to be a bad day. Everybody's stuck. So we're at containment, and then we need to talk about collecting and analyzing data from the incident. So, okay, so that's going to be the next question: is how would you collect and analyze data from the incident? And see, this is when we start to realize that we should have had a plan for all this stuff in advance, right? If we're doing all this on an ad hoc manner, like I said, waiting until, this would be like you have a house in Tampa and then you wait until 3 days before a Cat 3's to hit to do anything, to get ready for it. Well, now the store shelves are empty, Home Depot's empty, all the generators are already sold, you know what I mean? So we want to get ready for this advance. This stuff comes like a bolt out of the blue, at least with one of these storms that I'm talking about, or even wildfires, but not seismic. You might have some inkling that this is going to happen, even with certain man-made disasters like these riots and things that we see in the news. But this is kind of like a bolt out of the blue. This is maybe more like an earthquake, right? We know earthquakes happen. I'm in rural Pennsylvania. I actually live kind of near Warren. We don't have a big earthquake problem here. I don't know where all of you are. But that's the biggest challenge here, is that something like this is just going to come a bolt out of the blue. And that's why, and when we discover it, this is when triage begins. And that's kind of when the bleeding starts, when we've discovered the bleeding. And you needed to triage that and then stop the bleeding as soon as possible, right? Because all bleeding stops eventually one way or the other, right? Either you stop the bleeding or the host is dead. And you've all seen the statistics for the numbers on the kinds of businesses, small businesses could go out of business from this. And again, I'm reminding everybody, the purpose of this is not for me to teach you this necessarily, but to give you an idea how you can do this with us and then with your own clients. You have an event, and then you invite 20 or 30 people, and then you get, myself or Natalie or Jim or one of our other SMEs or Jay Ryerson, and then we go out and we run this tabletop exercise, and then people, come away from it feeling, well, there's something you could do. How would you collect and analyze data from the incident? This is very complicated. As I mentioned before, this is why we should have some type of an incident response plan in place from this. But as far as collecting and analyzing data from this, the first thing I would do is take the systems offline, as we mentioned, disconnect them from the network. And then you would have to start, taking images of these things. You want to, and there's, specific procedures that forensics people follow, and they're going to have tools. And, it just depends on where you're at this point. If you have cybersecurity insurance, by now you would have not notified your cyber insurance carrier, and they might have forensics people on the way. But at some point, we have to start gathering data. And it just really depends on the size of the attack and how bad the impact on operations are, and what the demands are like as to how much data we need to gather. Sometimes, depending if it's a small business, we might make a decision to simply nuke and pave, which isn't ideal. And by nuke and pave, I mean wipe the systems and then rebuild them from scratch without doing too much forensics. Ideally, we should be able to grab a disk image of those first. At a minimum, I would like to grab a disk image of the machines that have been compromised before we nuke and pave them, and stand them back up so that we have that data. And then, we need to try and figure out what's been tampered with. Sometimes they'll tamper with the logs. Sometimes they replace the logs. Sometimes they delete all the logs. They might change the logs. But there's a variety of different means that we could use to collect and analyze data from the incident. And we need to make sure we need to be prepared to do that in advance, know what systems that we think we're going to need to. And these are going to be typically going to be your critical systems. We're not going to do this in every single, laptop or workstation that's in your business. That might not be a good use of time. I'm taking this question by myself instead of picking on asking one to pick on somebody. But the next thing is to be to collect and analyze data for the incident so that we can do forensics later. And depending on if you have cybersecurity insurance, this might be a critical step in order to get a payout. And another thing with forensics too is if there's been cases where proper forensics and log files have been able to save victims from being fined because we could show that certain data wasn't accessed. Let's say that we go into the log files, the perpetrator is claiming, oh, we exfiltrated all this PII. Okay, well, you say you have it, but that doesn't mean you do. And if I could go into log files and then show that they never accessed the server or got into it where the PII is, then I know that they might be, because it's not like they're going to tell us the truth about everything. But if we can, prove what's the burden of beyond the preponderance of the evidence, I suppose for this will be a civil rather than criminal, that they didn't exfiltrate the data, then we don't have to pay a fine on it or take any action on that. So that's a very broad, open type of question there.
Jason,
yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nice one. Earlier you mentioned reaching out to your cybersecurity insurance provider so we can get some data forensics and all that. And I know for us internally, we have our incident response plan, and we created just a few on specific incidents just to see how to approach those, because they all might have a different path. And as with a ransomware, and I think probably with all of them, how helpful it is it smart to reach out prior to any incident to our cybersecurity insurance provider to know what kind of data we need to gather even before their team might be involved, because you never know how long that's going to.
So it depends on the carrier, and I'm not an expert on them. But from what I understand, the underwriters and the carriers are getting more involved with people directly, because cybersecurity insurance is new. Compared to other forms of insurance. Lloyd's of London has been around for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? Cyber insurance is new, and there's all this price discovery that is still happening. But the main thing that you want to know is what tree to bark up. What number do I call? Because you don't want to call your broker. Usually there's going to be some number, something specific that you want to call for this, right? And that specific thing, whatever it is, should be in your incident response plan. There's going to be a couple of parties that you want to, once you declare an incident, you're like, okay, we have an incident. I'm sure of that, right? And an incident and a breach are not the same thing. You don't want to call it a breach. That could imply certain legal obligations you don't want to deal with. So we're using the term incident for now. But once we declare an incident on our incident response plan, which we already have which we wrote last month before this happened or last year, it's going to say who we're going to notify. Are we going to contact local law enforcement? Are we going to talk to legal counsel? Our lawyer. At a minimum, you want to talk to probably legal, somebody, your cyber insurance carrier, and then law enforcement, and then go from there. Law enforcement can sometimes help they've been known to help in cases of business email compromise and stealing money through the SWIFT system and that kind of thing. But at a minimum, like I said, we're going to be notifying your insurance carrier, legal, and then law enforcement, and then others, depending on what's going on. And we want to have these things fleshed out in advance, and you want to have the numbers, the contact information of the correct persons in advance. Otherwise, you're going to be calling your broker and asking them what to do, or calling the underwriter and asking what to do. And eventually you're going to get some number and say, oh, this is our incident response number. This is what you call.
It looks like Jason had a comment or question.
Yeah. So we're an MSP, and we run across like ransomware. I wouldn't say frequently, right? But it happens. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so one of the things that we've ultimately done within our organization is within our master services agreement, we've actually suggested, or basically made it a requirement for our clients to actually carry cyber insurance. but whether they take that advice or not, that's on them. But the end result is every time something like this has happened, and we've had a handful of them, right? The thing that we do like immediately, especially in ransomware, is like first thing you do, like we really don't touch anything. We tell them to reach out to their lawyers first, and then if they have cyber insurance, to reach out to their insurance carrier and have them drive. Basically, what it boils down to is like we kind of take a back seat to them, and then they drive the conversation and the workflow as it relates to like the incidents and how we handle it. So we're going to be responsive to them as it relates to like the things that they need in order to troubleshoot or to get information, right? So we cut off the bleeding, right? So whether that be like
Yeah.
drop network connection, have them pull plugs, whatever the case may be, but the end result is once the incident happens, we take a back seat and tell them they need to reach out to their insurance carrier and go from there. So that's our stance and how it's worked for us in the past. I mean, interesting to see what other people are doing, but that's what we're doing on our side.
Yeah, I would opine that for the most part, MSPs are not going to be the incident commanders on these, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's going to be a mix of the cyber insurance companies should be the ones that are kind of, at the wheel on this, which is what that's for. But so we're still talking about Monday here, and it's almost 8 o'clock. It's late. The management team is still in the office. Customers are starting to call and asking about orders, which yes, customers are going to get angry. Shipments, the insurance company has been called, and they finally put you in touch with someone who is calling you now. So just now we're calling the insurance company. So what this tells me in this particular incident here, this scenario is that we don't have an incident response plan, because otherwise we would have done all these things already. This would have been done hours ago. We're already 8 hours behind the curve on this. This is one of the first things that should have been done. We should have known what number to call right away and get the ball rolling, and then get incident response and forensics. So the insurance company, they're going to help broker the payment with the threat actor. So that tells me that in this case that we do have cyber insurance, but we didn't have a cyber insurance incident response plan. So Tuesday, 3:13 p.m. Let's see what our questions are like. Let's see, we're going to be getting into remediation and then recovery in a little bit here. So Tuesday, 3:13 p.m., another day has passed, your business is still down. So you have all these people on payroll, you have the lights on, people are coming in, but you're not doing any revenue generating activities whatsoever. So we're hemorrhaging cash at this point. This is bad. The calls from the clients are ringing off the hook, but you don't know what to say. And that's because you don't have an incident response plan. If you had an incident response plan, one of the things that's going to be in there is how to respond to people, including there's going to be one person that's going to be in charge of that, typically public relations, and this is a public relations thing. We should have had something in advance that says who we're going to notify and how in the event of an incident, including our customers. And that's assuming they can even get a hold of you, because your phones are probably ringing off the hook. Let's see, another day has passed, your business is still down, the calls from the client are ringing off the hook, your insurance company just paid the ransom. But now the threat actors are asking for $210,000 more based on the value of the data they stole. Okay, so they're claiming that they have data. Usually at this point, they're going to provide evidence that they, show us evidence that they actually have this data and they're not lying about it. After some deliberation, the insurance company decides it will pay this amount if you agree. And then an asterisk here. If you choose not to pay, the attacker launches a DDoS attack on your website and brings your company website down, threatening to release all data in 72 hours, about 3 days. If the new ransomware of $750 is not paid. So they're cranking it up. These guys are organized. They plan in advance. They know exactly what they're doing. I could tell based on reading this scenario that we're dealing with, seasoned threat actors here that know what they're doing, and we weren't prepared for it, and they know we're not prepared for it. And, one of the things you don't want them to get a hold of, there's a couple things you don't want on the company network, like your insurance policy. By the way, that's another way that they figure out what their demands are going to be, like your cybersecurity insurance policy. Don't have a copy of that anywhere where it can be, exfiltrated, because they might be basing the amounts that they're demanding based on what the insurance company is going to say that they're going to pay out. So, but in this case, they decide they're going to launch a distributed denial of service attack. So now they're actively attacking us because we're not cooperating and doing what we're told. Okay, so Wednesday, 8:59. So this is what, 48 hours later. So we're now 48 hours and change. More than that. The second payment is made and the decryption key is shared. So they sent us a decryption key so that we could decrypt our data. One thing to keep in mind is that decrypting data takes much, much longer than encrypting data. So they might have encrypted all this stuff over the weekend, but it might take an entire week to decrypt it. They're different processes. And decryption is mathematically, computationally far more resource intensive. So even though now that we have the decryption key so we can start decrypting our data, and this also tells me that we didn't have good backups in this case. Either we didn't have good backups or they attack the backups, which they do. They'll get in there and they'll figure out what the backup scheme is and they'll ruin the backups or they'll reconfigure backups so they're backing up junk. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but they've been known to reconfigure automated backups so that they're backing up log files and nonsense and stuff that doesn't really matter all that much. So Wednesday, 9 p.m. So I wonder where they are. I don't know, Eastern Europe or something like that, probably. The second payment is made. Threat actors claim to have deleted all client data. They claim to. There's no way to prove that, you know. To your horror, you realize it will take days to manually decrypt everything and recover from damage. This is because we don't have backups or the backups didn't work or there's something wrong with them. You realize your IT manager is mentally and physically exhausted from the experience already, and your team must help bridge the gap for much needed resources. So with a 150 person shop, depending on, you know, how much money this place is making, you may have your IT manager doesn't say exactly, are they a full-time IT manager? Is this, you know, I've worked with clients where the IT manager is somebody that's, you know, 25 years old and kind of freshly out of college, you know what I mean? And they're a full-time person. I worked with other ones where the IT manager had one or two other jobs. So we really don't know. But most likely in a 150 person company, the IT manager is not going to be qualified to do forensics and disk imaging. And they're not qualified to do all this. So they're exhausted at this point. They've probably been working around the clock for 2 days. And, you know, this person knows probably already that if we don't clean this up, I'm at risk of losing my job anyway. And this person's already at risk of losing their job anyway because of what happened, because you're looking for somebody to blame. But you know, if they don't recover from this, then eventually all these people could lose their jobs, which is horrendous. So the second payment is made, the decryption key is shared. So we've paid money, they've given us a decryption key, and now it's time to start, you know, kind of cleaning up and then recovering from this mess. So we better pray that this decryption key works, because it might not. Let's see. So we'll go on to another question here. How would you remediate and then recover from the incident? And Juan, if you want to pick on somebody else for me on that one.
All right, we're scrolling here. Let's hear from Talisa Egenhauser. You're talking about remediation and recovery, right?
Yeah, how would so now we have the decryption key now, finally. Everything's a mess, nothing's working. Now we got to start remediating and recovering from this. This IT manager, can you imagine what this person's life is like? This is going to take a minimum 2 weeks just to get going again, working again, you know. Oh, I don't have a mic. I'm listening to learn. Okay. Okay. You want to pick on somebody else, one?
I think for such a long time, I mean, we hope that we get good backups in order to recover or at least start building some new devices from scratch. But I will call on Zach Giovanni. You cannot use excuses. Tell us that you have you tell how you have not an excuse, but don't tell us you don't have a mic.
I do have a mic.
I have a buddy we ran this morning, and he decided not to run because he said he had his dog. So we told everybody you cannot use that anymore, and nobody can bring dogs. So go. Sorry.
Yeah, I just I'd be piggybacking off of Juan's suggestion. You know, just hope you have good enough backups. If your backups are compromised, then start looking into how they were compromised and adjust for the future. And this whole thing started because you didn't have an incident response plan. So that would be, once we're at that point, that's definitely be something I'd start drafting up immediately. And then go from there. Other than that, that's all I got.
And this is a really open-ended question. Now think about this: in a 150-person enterprise, the IT is probably somewhat mature, and I don't know what's going on here. I mean, maybe we had Exchange on-prem, and we've been thinking about going to O365, right? And this could be a time where, or we were planning on cycling some computers out anyway. We might be making a decision to be ordering 100 new computers right now, because we were going to, we were planning on cycling them out in 3 months anyway. And now these things are all destroyed. You never know. This could be all over the place, because at this point, the IT manager, their biggest concern is going to be simply service delivery. We want service to work so this business can function, so we could generate revenue, so we could keep the lights on and pay the employees, and continue to exist. And this is such an open-ended question. We could probably spend hours on this alone.
Hey, Jason.
But yeah,
if I could quick, is that something, how would you remediate and recover is what we're talking about, right? Is that something, or I'm sorry, is this where we would go back to the insurance company though? Would they give us a plan on that we would follow their plan? Like, for example, if their policy is going to cover all new machines, hell yeah, let's go. But if it doesn't, then we have to, do you know what I mean by that?
yeah, it really depends on what's in the policy. Some of these,
Sure.
Some of the better policies, they include forensics and recovery and all this stuff.
Okay.
And some of the insurance carriers, they have forensics companies on tap. And ConnectWise, we also have incident response that is available to all of you through our part to you too and your clients. So it just depends on the policy, but if you have an incident response plan in advance and you have a policy that's comprehensive and well written, there's a good chance that the cyber insurance carrier is going to do a lot of this stuff for you.
Okay.
But in this case, it sounds like we don't have that, and we're having to clean up the mess ourselves.
Yeah.
It sounds like the insurance carrier paid the ransom for us, but I don't know what else they're going to pay or not pay. And the cyber insurance policy is also not going to, in most cases, not going to cover lost revenue. That's a business insurance policy. So if we're losing revenue, that's going to be a whole other. So it just really depends on the policy, and they're all over the place. One of the resources I like for this, I used to teach CPEs for the American Bar. So the American Bar Association, on the ABA website, they have a bunch of insurance carriers that they recommend that have these things available to them. But you need to have this discussion beforehand. But how would you remediate and recover from the incident? So you think about if you're IT manager, leadership in this case, they're going to be concerned about cash flow, probably, right? Most small businesses, that's going to be, cash is king. My dad used to have a T-shirt that said "Happiness is a positive cash flow" on it. He was a CPA. So if I was the business owner, the first thing I would be thinking about is like, okay, well, what systems are down that are impacting cash flow right now? What do I need back in order to start selling widgets? And then they're going to be dictating to the manager what they want up. And then the IT manager is going to have to bring those things up based on what they're being told, probably by leadership. But again, this stuff should have been fleshed out in advance. And then they could be making some very hard and rash decisions. If they had some stuff that they were planning to cycle out anyway, like I said, let's hypothetically say that we were running Exchange on-prem, which I don't recommend anyway, and we were thinking about going to O365, this would probably be an opportunity to do that. We might do an emergency migration to cloud, or an emergency migration from one cloud to another. A lot of times these things will result in emergency migrations, emergency procurements, getting rid of stuff. This is such an open-ended question, and it'll be all over the place just depending on the environment. But for a company this size, you have 150 employees, and it sounds like these are all desk jobs. You have 150 workstations and then supporting infrastructure. This is going to be a big mess. So at some point we start functioning again, and we need to talk about how would you assess and adjust following the incident, right? At some point, we're going to get back to the point where we're functioning somewhat, or at least maybe, hopefully, getting home in time for dinner, whoever's involved with this thing. Juan, you want to voluntold someone? Any vets here? Right?
Yeah.
Who wants to be voluntold? Right? Any Navy vets? Never again volunteer yourself. You want to volunteer somebody first, Juan, for this one?
Yeah, I was going to say, when we were talking, earlier when we were talking about collecting logs, the first thing that came to mind is like, okay, my SIM logs, but it didn't look like they had this in this situation. So as far as, assess it and knowing what can I do in the future, that's one of the things is like make sure that you have that log not only for the notification purposes, but also for going back and be able to identify those at the beginning. But I am going to call on Rich Szymanski. Hope I didn't butcher that. I live in Germantown. I should be able to go through all these. Rich Szymanski. Rick Szymanski. Nobody's raising their hand. Jonathan Eddy. He I think he wants to volunteer.
Yeah, I don't have a mic either.
Sorry, Rich. I saw your message now. No mic. Go ahead, Jonathan.
As an IT person, one of the things that I would do is I would go through the results from the forensics and see what the actual vector was. And then I would go back through my notes and previous proposals to make sure that I didn't already propose that and have it rejected. That's a good CYA moment.
You nailed it. You nailed it, because that's exactly what's going on here. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But then I would pull all of the previous security recommendations that have been made and anything new that might have come from the forensics and make a mass proposal for overhaul of security.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened when one of our clients denied a bunch of requests or a bunch of quotes to increase their security and then got ransomwared. And I got to be on the team working on that for a few days.
Yeah. I've heard this many times. And I had the same kind of experience when I was doing assessments and then writing system security plans for these defense contractors. The IT teams were always thrilled because basically I would provide this report and the IT people would tell management, this is exactly what we've been saying. We need these things and you need to listen to us. So in a business this size, that's almost always the conversation that's going to be going on, because you send out purchase orders for this and that, and they said, well, no, we don't think it's necessary. But in the military, or we do an after action review or a hot wash or whatever you call it, and this is part of the cycle of continuous improvement. Whenever we have something we want to improve on, when we have an incident or some type of an event, we're gonna have a hot wash or after action review after that and say, okay, what were the lessons learned? What policies and procedures do we need to change? It how could we do this better next time? And this stuff should be documented in your incident response policy, because you're going to have incidents from time to time. And ideally, hopefully, they should be minor incidents. An incident might just be, an account got locked out because somebody was trying to brute force it unsuccessfully, or the incident could be this. But these things should be documented so that we have a historical record of what's going on. And we're going to go back through that and then sit down with the team and management, and then, because all of this is risk management, right? It's risk management. And I say this all the time when I present, but cybersecurity only made sense to the extent that it reduces business risks or saves us money. And we have to be able to, show in dollars and cents how it is that we're doing that.
I would like to add one other thing is, if you are diligent about proposing the things, even if you continually get shot down, make sure to keep all of that documentation, because two things. I know you mentioned Navy earlier. I used to be that as well. But number one rule is CYA.
Absolutely.
Number two is, once you have all of that cover out in the open, depending on the situation and how bad it was, you get a virtual blank check to fix it and make sure it never happens again.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a story. I worked for an internet service provider in upstate Pennsylvania early on, and this was 20 years ago, when we were rolling out DSL, and we had this access concentrator called a Redback. And there were 8,000 customers hanging off this thing, and there was no redundant, there was no backup unit. And engineering kept sending purchase orders to management saying, we need a second one of these things because it's going to go down eventually. And when it doesn't, there's no failover. And what do you think happened? Right. So the thing goes down, and you have 8,000 customers without connectivity for 3 days. And then management tried to blame it on engineering, but engineering, the chief engineer not only sent the emails, but this person printed the emails out and kept them in a folder because they knew that this was going to happen. They're like, I know the uptime on this thing is 99.999%. I know that, but that means it's going to fail eventually, and that's exactly what happened. So I think everybody here is kind of tracking what's going on with this. This is the infighting that goes on between IT and management over security. They don't always pay for this. And then when you have an incident like this that happens, this is when we want to take the time to shore things up. So now if you're looking at my shared screen here, and Juan, you said you're going to send this out, you could kind of review this as post-exercise homework, but we have the answers. This is the answer key on the end here about how you would how all these things would be done correctly. And these aren't, it's not complete, comprehensive, exhaustive. It's kind of high level. But the last question is going to be, how would you mitigate and prevent the incident from occurring again? And we've already covered that a little bit. But since I'm running the exercise, I'm gonna hit this one. And I think that I don't remember the last person that spoke. The first thing that's going through my head at this point is, but aside from keeping my job, you know what I mean, because sometimes they look for somebody to fire when stuff like this happens, would be how to prevent it from happening again. But yeah, I would absolutely leverage this, not to get goodies, so to speak, but just get the things that I need, because chances are I've put in requests for SIEM and for EDR and SOC and different backup solutions and these other things, and then management denied them. So now I'm going to go and then look at these proposals that I put in. But if you haven't had that done, then the next step is going to be some type of a comprehensive cybersecurity assessment, in my opinion. And this is what I was doing when I ran Stronghold Cybersecurity, was doing these in-depth cybersecurity assessments, writing system security plans. So at this point, whether it depends on whether or not the MSP does this, or whether they, how big the MSP is, and if they have people in-house that could do this. But the first step for the client would be some type of a cybersecurity assessment. And once we get running again, and we get back to the point where we're operating, to the point where we're no longer hemorrhaging cash, and we have some type of semblance of sanity, we're going to start talking about preventing this from happening again. So in my mind, the next thing is going to be a comprehensive cybersecurity assessment, and having somebody write a system security plan based on controls, based on the NIST cybersecurity framework, or depending on what does it say that the victim is doing here? We're a medical prosthetics company, so that means we have PHI at a minimum. I don't know what state we're in. We could be in some state that has laws around this, but the way that we do the assessment is going to be driven by where we are, who we are, what we're doing, who we're doing it for, our own tolerance for risk, what we perceive to be threats. We might have statutory or contractual obligations to have certain things, but the next step here is going to be to have some type of a comprehensive cybersecurity assessment, get a system security plan written, an information security plan, pick our list of controls, and then decide what controls we're meeting now, which ones we're not meeting, and then come up with a plan of action and milestones to remediate this stuff. And ideally, there are some things that we're going to bring in right away without even spending any time on it, like EDR, for example, endpoint detection and response, and MDR. If we just had regular antivirus before this would be an awfully good time to to spend that. And it's not a ton of extra money. It does cost more to do those things, but there's going to, or let's say that we didn't have multi-factor authentication in place. We weren't training our users. So I'd bring those. Let's get MFA on everything. Let's start training our users. Let's get in EDR and MDR, those things. And then while I'm doing that, working on my plan of action and milestones, which says these are the changes we're going to make in Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, and then move on from there to the point where we have a mature cybersecurity program. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to what my own answer to how we would mitigate and prevent the incident from occurring again? Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that we offer, we have a team of pen testers and vulnerability scan people that are completely isolated and separate from our NOC.
Good.
So that there's no cross contamination of the results or anything like that.
But separation of duties is what we call that.
So they will run their tests and, you know, not exactly tell us what's going on, just so that our tools can catch them. But we'll offer, in our managed security plan, we're starting to offer quarterly external vulnerability scans and annual pen tests. We also offer training and phishing campaign tests with KnowBe4.
Right. Yeah, and those are they're all preventative measures that the client should be doing. And a lot of them are reluctant or resistant to, you know, go through the effort or spend the money until something bad actually happens. But you know, one of the reasons why we go around the country educating people, you know, telling these about these threats and what they could do about them is because we want to stop this stuff from happening, because this really is a disaster and it could be as bad as a flood or a fire. And it, you know, small businesses that aren't prepared for this, if you don't have a ton of cash on hand and you don't have a cyber insurance policy and they lock up all your data and you can't get it back, you're going to be toast, you know. And that's the main reason why we're doing this event with you as partners, not necessarily to teach you how to do incident response or how to write an incident response plan. Probably nearly all of you either have one or know how to do it, but we would do this a little bit differently in person. Like I said, I would come out to you in person, and I've done this with Warren and some of our other partners, some of the other PDMs, and we'll have you and then myself and then maybe your partner development executive and then your clients. And then, you know, we'll have a room full of people, and then we'll go through this tabletop exercise. And then, you know, when we do this as a tabletop exercise, people start to realize, like, well, I didn't even think of any of this stuff. I didn't know this was so complicated. And, you know, the idea is to, you know, not only lead the horse to water, but get the horse to take a drink before something bad happens. You know, that old saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Holy smokes, it applies to this more than anything. And it's, and for me personally, this is why I work for ConnectWise, working with these small to mid-sized businesses. I could go work for Google or Facebook or whatever, delivering shareholder value, and which is fine, you know what I mean? But you know, I've owned my own business. I come from family businesses, and my brother's self-employed, and I have a soft spot for the small to mid-sized business, and I like going around helping them to protect themselves from this happening, you know. And that's what the goal of all this is. So all of that makes sense. Or does anybody have questions for myself or Warren about the Cybersecurity Partner Program? Or this particular exercise that we just ran in a kind of an ad hoc manner, but I think we did okay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and so we're at 4:27. I'm gonna stop talking and then hand things over back to you guys, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap things up, if anybody can think of anything, just go ahead and raise your hand or interrupt me. So we're gonna get this ready. But Jason, thank you so much for helping us and guiding us through this. I love it when we all interact and hear from each other and learn from each other. That's one of the biggest things for these user groups, is for us as partners to be able to share, learn from our experiences. So thank you for everybody, and Jason, you know, for expanding this to us. This is something that I earlier mentioned, our technology fair coming up, and this is one of the things that we actually were thinking about providing. So Jason, Google French Lick, Indiana. Maybe you'll end up over here if we convince.
I've been to Indiana. I was
yeah.
Where did I go? When you drive east of Chicago, you get into Indiana. There's a casino there. I think I did an event there.
Yeah, that's probably up north. We're all the way south, man. French Lick, Indiana. There's a casino there too.
Probably so it's corn.
Historic,
it's just like where
historic
I live,
Indiana.
right? It's corn. I live in a cornfield here.
Yep. So thank you so much for giving all that all your knowledge, expertise, and guiding us through all these questions and this particular scenario. And same thing, Warren, for sharing with us the partner program, all the different benefits. I hope everybody found value on all this. We started with a partner program on all the things that are offered to us as partners as we try to grow our cybersecurity practice. And then Jason with a good example, some of a life example and experience of what we can get out of the program. So Warren, you put in the URL in there to sign up for the partner program. So
Yep.
I think there was a request
That's in
for
the
that.
chat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also I'll include that on the follow-up email along with the the other scenarios too for the incident response, so you guys can see all the other options that are out there.
We can do the
available.
other ones depending on who you're. If one of the other scenarios is a better fit for your clients, or we can alter them a little bit to make it, because people are going to want the scenario to feel real to them. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah, correct. And yeah, and then I mean the one today was perfect, right? Because I'm assuming we all have experienced, like you said, some level of ransomware.
It's very believable, and there's a lot of things that you can infer from this just based on when it happened. Like it's Monday morning, and they're waiting tonight to make it. They know exactly what they're doing. These people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And I don't want to see any SMB losing a single cent over this stuff, or I don't want to see anybody losing a single job over it, because we can prevent it.
Yeah.
Not 100% of the time, not 100% of the time, but most of the time.
And having that plan in place.
No, you can prevent it 100% of the time. Just don't have internet.
Yeah, shut everything off.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. We're a little over 4:30 again. Jason, Warren, thank you so much for your participation, and everybody on the call. Thank you so much for joining us. And January 11th will be our next one. So mark your calendar, and as always, you'll get that invite coming over from me. So
thank you so much,
enjoy
Warren.
the rest
Appreciate
of your week.
Thanks
All right.
for the
guys.
opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.